There are 4,315,275,402 Alabama football podcasts on the internet. And now you get to ignore every single one. This is the Houndstooth Podcast. Real talk from real fans. We gump to a standard around here. Recapping the Alabama Crimson Tide and college football from around the SEC and across the nation. This is the Houndstooth Podcast. And here are your hosts, Bill Sylvie, Jessica Brand, John Henry, and Bo Gnora.
Good evening and roll tide. How are you folks doing this evening? Hello, sports fans. How you doing, Big John? Good to see you, my friend.
How's it going?
It is going particularly well. I hope it's going okay for you. Roll tide, TJP. Good to see you out in the audience, of course.
Hey, our fan. All right.
Our fan. Our absolutely. We are ready to rock and roll. John, did you watch any football this weekend? Catch any games?
Not as much as I would like, but you know what? That's every week. One game is too many. All of them is not enough. I guess I'm addicted. I do with that what you will. No,
I know exactly precisely how you feel, and I got to tell you, not for nothing. I was completely entertained by the game, although it was a little weird, and I think we're just going to jump straight in with my opening thoughts on the game. First of all, football fans, and I think I don't want to speak for John, and by the way, it is just us tonight, so who knows what we're going to get up to. Bo is out because of work, and Jessica is on special assignment. But we learned nothing from this game. This game didn't show us anything. There was no scheme or anything except folks, a depth of chart that had our own Jessica Brand going absolutely bonkers. We were live streaming and watching the game on Discord, and they were pulling I think they were pulling players out of the stands in the last 6 or 8 minutes of the game. I honestly do. There were guys who that was probably all of the Alabama football they'll ever play for their entire lives. So many guys rotated in, and I saw something that I have never seen before in college football. Any of the college football I've watched, ever, or pro football. I've never seen this ever in pro football. Now, we know the victory formation. There's 34 seconds left on the clock. You're ahead by 27 points. You've got the ball. You don't need to drop back and throw a slant to try and pick up yards, right? Or there's a minute 30 left on the clock. That's 3 plays. I have never seen a team sit down at the 9 or 10 yard line with 5 minutes left on the clock and go into victory formation. That's not a criticism. That's an observation. I was really surprised by that.
I think I've seen it once or twice before. Alabama has done it, I think, once or twice before, where it's late in the game like that. We're getting ready to score, but the opponent is just outclassed, and we're on. We've got the third string water boy in there, who really wants to score, and he's going to push it if you run an actual play, so you run victory formation. So, I think I've seen it.
Uh-oh. We lost you there.
It is fairly rare.
I mean, yeah, and this is not a humble brag or anything. I had heard that Nick Saban will never hang 70 on another team. He will never embarrass another team like that. But we had a discussion on the Discord, on the Discord we all use. I was of the agreement. I was of the mindset that a Nick Saban led team would still go out and try to compete, because we're just going to take a knee. We're just going to take a knee. We're just going to take a knee. Or, I'm just going to haul off and throw an incomplete pass 4 times in a row, was kind of insulting to the other team. It's like a little pat on the head. Oh, you poor dears. Well, I know you can't score. And the thought was, yeah, that's kind of insulting. I can't see Nick doing that either. But there it was, Saturday, a victory formation with 5 minutes of offense left. So which is it? Nick's not going to hang 70 on a team, or Nick's not going to give all of his everything he can to the other team. You read me?
Yep. So this, yeah, and you protect not only your players, you protect the players on the other team as well.
Yeah. And ULM had to have been running some serious chart depth there too. I mean, if you're from the South, there's many different ways you can use this term. It can be an insult. It can be a genuine, heartfelt thing. And I think from my perspective, it was genuinely heartfelt to look at the Warhawks there and say, well, bless your hearts. Bless their hearts for trying to run. But I mean, there was just a point at which it was obvious. It was painfully obvious. ULM could literally not stop Alabama from scoring if Alabama had wanted to. And TJP says they were dropping like flies. Yeah, they were. They really were.
Yeah, and there's a point at a team like playing against a team like that, it actually kind of sends you backwards. You get sloppy, and you don't want your starters playing sloppy just because the other team is that outmatched. So you pull them, and you cut back on the plays that you run. You're trying to get your backups reps and trying to get them some practice, but they are in year 2 of a major rebuild. They're just about rebuilding from the ground up, and it shows. They played hard, but yeah, that's one of those, you get your starters out of there as quick as you can.
Yeah, just completely outclassed. And looking at the tail of the tape, and we're going to do a short. We're running because I think it better suits probably to the audience's ears when folks come back and give it a listen. And there are some of you out there. We appreciate it. But I feel like the format of stats, rather than me going all the way down the defense depth chart and telling you who had a half an assist in the middle of the fourth quarter, it doesn't really behoove anyone. So with that said, let's talk about the numbers. Alabama, 23 first downs, ULM 11. Our third down efficiency was actually kind of terrible, 1 for 6. But then how often were we dropping back after a couple of plays, right? 509 total yards, 236 in the air, 13 of 20 pass completions, yard per pass, 11.8. We had 273 yards rushing, average 7 on 39 rushing attempts. Penalties was a little troublesome. We had 6 for 60. How were we needing to do things wrong against these guys? That is what I hope Nick Saban was yelling at them Monday morning. 2 turnovers. That was troubling. That was very troubling.
Yeah, Bryce got a little bit careless with the ball, trying to make some plays downfield, and got kind of greedy.
Yeah. I mean, you know, what are you gonna what are you gonna do? The kid's got to learn. The kid's got to learn. So that's our stats, and it's not great, but it is you know, like I said, we didn't learn a lot. They're great stats, don't get me wrong. They're just not great for teaching points, I guess is what I'm saying.
I did learn something. We have an RPO in our playbook.
I'm sorry, we have a what?
An RPO play.
Is that like where you?
Yes, it's in there. We saw it.
I was wondering what that was. Yeah, Bill O'Brien cracked open the RPO a couple of times, and this is something I talked about this in the comments. Where has our tempo gone as a team? Where has our tempo play gone? Do you remember when Saban came in until he picked up Kiff as an assistant? Where Nick Saban never went tempo. And
we're so used to seeing it. We had one game where we didn't use it, but yeah, we've used it the last 2 games. And let me tell you how I know, because I'll go back and rewatch the game. And if my DVR skips or backs up 15 seconds at a time, and I can get one skip forward, 15-second period of skipping forward. Otherwise, they've already snapped the ball. That's how you know they're in a hurry. If you do it twice and they're still there, you know they're slowing it down. That's how I always know, instead of counting.
That's awesome. I like that. Your DVR as a stats man. I like it a lot.
It's a trend spotter.
A trend spotter. But I don't know. Somebody needs to light a fire under Bill O'Brien. Fire Bill O'Brien is the subtext there. But I really want to see Bama go back to RPO and go back to hurry up. Not hurry up, tempo. I think we're giving the initiative. I personally think that's what happened at Texas. I don't want to revisit something that painful, but I feel like we just gave him too much time. And the coach we were playing against,
I think that we were doing it on purpose. Number one, to protect the defense. Number two, it was hot down there, and I think they were protecting the players and trying to not wear everybody out. It ended up working against us some, and part of it were the positions we kept getting in, because we kept getting so many penalties. You go fast after a first down. That's an automatic. You get a first down, you get down there, you line up, and you run another play really fast. And you usually have a canned few plays to do it. But we were having so many 3 and outs, I hate to say, against Texas, that we couldn't really do that. You have to then you can pick it up. But it looked like they were trying to protect the defense and keep them off the field and shorten the game a little bit because of the heat. That's what I thought.
That seems like a fair observation. That Texas heat is different. It's really different. I mean, and it is a dry heat. It is a blowtorchy dry heat. But anyway, so we talk about the high tide, the low tide, and the elephant stomp. Really, I mean, high tide, every play in the game, almost. Low tide, probably 2 interceptions that didn't need to be there. Elephant stomp, just overall defense performance. We ate them alive. I mean, they were entirely outmatched. I mean, it's not saying much, right? Anything in particular stand out for you, John?
So I have a fourth category of thing, and I don't know what to call it. But our special teams and our defense disrupted their play and the rhythm of the game so much with interceptions and block punts and massive punt returns that it threw our offense out of whack for about a quarter. It just completely interrupted the flow of the game, kept the offense off the field for several possessions because everybody else kept scoring touchdowns. But yeah, that really disrupted the flow of the game, and I think it took the offense a little while to get back into rhythm because of that. It was weird. But my high tide is 262 yards of punt returns. That's,
Yes.
you look at the offensive stats and you don't see that, but boy, that's huge. It's huge. And I am sorry. I am drinking the Kool-Aid on this one. Forgive me. Sorry. Kool-Aid McKinstry. Punt returns for 150 something, 170 something yards. My low tide, same as you, Bryce throwing 2 interceptions. He's got he made a couple of bad decisions, and I'm sure he'd want those back. But he was, I think, feeling it a little bit against an opponent he knew he was going to win against, and he was just trying to make something big happen. I doubt we'll see that against quality opponents. My elephant stomp, Will Anderson taking a tip screen pass all the way back. I love to see the big man get a touchdown. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anderson for Peisman Trophy.
I can't quite get him in the Peisman category.
You can't give him the Peisman. He's not a Terrence Mount Cody or a
we have to cut that off, the weight limit off for that one at about 275 or so. If you're smaller than that, you can't really qualify for the Peisman.
Fair enough. Will, I stuck it out there for you, brother. I tried to get you the Peisman, but John says no. Yeah. So I mean, as far, there was a lot of good-looking highlight reel stuff, but we got to temper our expectations. This was ULM.
This was they were a bad team.
And hey, coming into this game, they were 1-0 against Nick Saban. I think. Have we played them since then?
Yeah, 20. Yes, we played them once since then.
Okay, so we were 1-1. The Warhawks were 1-1 against Nick Saban. So we've tipped the balance.
A winning record.
We finally have a winning record against ULM. Our long national nightmare is over. So we do have a little bit of trivia tonight. We're running tempo because it's just me and John. It's just me and John. I think TJP makes a very salient point. The first interception was a bad throw. That ball was quacking. When it left Bryce's arm. It really was. It was, as I say, when I watch replays, speaking of replays, we got something a little special at halftime I want to mention. But when I watch replays, when I watch games, and that was one of those infamous, shouldn't have thrown that one, Bubba, footballs. But the other was on the wide receiver. He let that ball go. It wasn't behind him. It was spot on. He just didn't hang on to it. He didn't get his hands out there. And who was that? Who was that? Was that Gibbs? Was that Gibbs that let that one go? Or was that Brooks?
I don't remember. I was not particularly analytical in this one. I was watching it as a fan.
No, I got you. And that's probably why Bo is probably sitting back right now going, better you than me, to us. All right. So like I said, we are kind of going tempo tonight, but we did have some trivia. We did have some trivia last week. And the trivia question was, who was Alabama's most accurate kicker? Now, I wanna say, and TJP, if you know this one and you want to chime in, you get the shout out this week. Absolutely no problem. But I want to say that that someone did mention it, and it may have even been TJ. But who is Alabama's most accurate kicker? And I don't think we got. Yes, that's all time. Field goal average, XP percentage, points total. So I'll just go ahead and stick that one out there again since we didn't get an answer on it. But while you are contemplating that one, this week's trivia, and John, do you know the answer to this one? Because I'm going to ask. This week's trivia, it's fairly simple. I think it's not too difficult. We laid a shellacking on ULM. Of that, there can be no doubt. This could have been Nick Saban's 70-point game. They literally could not have stopped us if we had wanted to run into the end zone. They had no way to stop us, to prevent it. But Nick has beaten some teams around with a stick. What is the biggest margin of points, and against which team, conference opponent, that Nick Saban has scored? Do you know the answer?
Are we looking margin of victory or highest point total here?
Yes. I will have to say probably we would call it margin of victory.
Okay, we've beaten Auburn pretty bad a couple times, about when they looked kind of like they look now. What is that? 2011, 2012. But there were some other lopsided victories in there. Oh, yeah, okay. I see where we're going with this. Was it Vanderbilt in 2017? I don't remember the final score. That was 50-something to not much.
I think See, as I pulled up my stats, maybe I'm going to have to double check this, because I think both of you guys are wrong, but because that was the same year. No, you guys are both incorrect. It was TJP. You are correct in the score, but that is not the largest margin of victory. That is not the largest margin of victory. I'll give you a hint. It is in that season.
But it was fun. That one's fun to talk about. Then there was also the Texas A&M one in 2014, where we beat them something like 52-0. That was fun to talk about. That was a great game.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, that one was fantastic. So that is our halftime trivia question. And if you know the answer and you want to stick it down in the comments, or if you're listening later and we don't announce a correct guess by the end of the show, and you want to leave it in the comments under the video, you can do that, and you'll get the shout out next week. But by the way, I should point out real quick, just briefly, that yes, TJP, you got it right. It was Lee Tiffin. It was Lee Tiffin. And TJP follows it up. You're just the guy. TJP is the guy. It was Ole Miss in 2017. We shellacked a lame duck Ole Miss 66-3. Alabama scored at will. Alabama scored at will that night. There was literally, I mean, it opened up with with pain and just continued on into the evening. So a 63-point margin of victory that night. TJP was at that game. Oh my gosh. I salute you. I salute you, sir.
Yes.
Can we see you in any
Alabama
shot?
did score at will that game. That we also scored at Hugh Freeze a lot that game. Sorry.
Yes.
Bad joke. Bad joke.
Bad joke. Matt Luke
Bad
was
joke.
coaching.
Oh, was that Matt Luke, not Freeze? Okay.
No. Hugh was gone at that point. It was prior to Kiff, and it was Matt Luke. And bless their hearts, for the next season, when because Luke was just the interim, but for the next season, the players voted that they wanted to keep Matt Luke as head coach.
I have to be honest. I completely forgot about Matt Luke.
And he's an assistant somewhere now. And now I'm going to look it up because we got to.
He was at Georgia. I don't remember if he stayed. I think he left. He went somewhere else. But after that, he went to Georgia. I do remember that.
So Matt Luke is currently. No, he is an assistant head coach right now. No. I'm sorry. No. He quit right after the Natty. Yeah, he retired in 2022, February of 2022. He wanted to spend more time with his family, and that's something I can absolutely respect. That's something I can respect, regardless of who you are. Note to Nick Saban: you don't do that. All right, so that's the fun halftime stuff. Both shout outs to TJP. Granted, it was not some great trivia questions, but you got them just the same, TJP. So double shout out to you. I'm giving thumbs up to the camera like I've got my camera turned on here and we're not just icons on the screen. All right, so halftime is over and we're switching the ticker because, John, it is that time to go around the conference and around the top 10. Over to you, Big John.
Why, thank you, sir. Well, I guess let's start off with number one, Georgia taking on big, mighty South Carolina. Georgia won 48-7. They completely shut down the Gamecocks offense. Spencer Rattler went 13 of 25 for 118 yards and 2 picks. And backup Luke Doty threw yet another pick. Stetson Bennett was 16 of 23 for 285 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he also ran for another 36 yards and a touchdown. So Heisman hopes there for the little guy. Walk on to Heisman candidate.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, sure. He's the caretaker of that offense. He's not the king of that offense.
No, not by far. All right, well. And
so next up for Georgia, Kent State. Next up for South Carolina, Charlotte. So we're approaching quickly the end of cupcake season. It's about to get serious for. It's over for some of them. You'll see as I go through here. About half of these teams have one more cupcake to go before they get serious into the conference. Auburn and Penn State. That one was. Auburn got smacked around 41-12. They gave up 245 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground. And each of their quarterbacks threw a pick. And what's the old saying? If you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterbacks.
Yeah, this is an Auburn that is. Yeah. This is an Auburn that cannot get out of its own road.
This is a tire fire inside a dumpster fire, inside a burning bus, inside a volcano. It's that bad there right now. It's just the boosters who shall not be named did such a horrible job making him try to look bad last year, trying to get him fired and failing, that they've blown up the program. I mean, they had a bunch of kids leave, and they can't recruit anybody anymore because of those boosters. And they get rid of this guy who's going to want to coach there. I wouldn't want to coach there.
Yeah. And I mean, how much money can they throw? How much good money can they throw after bad?
They're still trying to pay off Gus, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Gus is down here in Orlando faffing about with a team with its ridiculous ass aspirations. I just stuttered there, by the way. I didn't say a swear, not on the Houndstooth podcast, folks. But
it'd be a damn shame if you did.
Damn right.
Sorry.
But anyway, no. It's just. Again, how much money can Auburn? You cannot. Auburn is in the bottom of a hole.
Yes.
What can they do? Dig their way out? And I think all day really catches the essence of it here. Harson's an awful recruiter. Look, War Eagles, let's sit down and let's have a quick counseling session on the show. You are not now, and you will never be a blue blood school. All right. You rode high in the SEC because a downbeat, dispirited Alabama was the only person in the room you had to smack around. There. I vented. Please continue, John.
So, we're going to find out who's at the bottom of that hole with them next week when they take on Missouri at home. We'll find out who's a little lower down in that hole. It would
be hilarious if Missouri won.
If they win on Saturday, he's gone on Sunday. They're that unhappy down there. I'm not hearing any good things from Auburn people. And they're in a deep dark hole of their own right now, and it's bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to LSU and Mississippi State. That was a strange game. Mississippi State jumped out to a quick lead on a long touchdown run. Yes, a Mike Leach team scored a touchdown on the ground. That's strange enough. But,
I was shocked. I was as shocked as you are.
And LSU was down 16-10 until late in the third. Mississippi State muffed a punt, and LSU recovered at the 9 and scored 3 plays later. And then LSU scored on the next 2 possessions to pull away to 31-16. LSU is slowly getting better, but and Mississippi State is Mississippi State. They're a Mike Leach team. They've got their quarterback's getting better, but it's still the Mike Leach offense, and it's got a ceiling. I'll put it that way. Next up for LSU is New Mexico, while Mississippi State has got Bowling Green, so they've got one cupcake left before they get into the meat of their schedule. Texas A&M and Miami, another close game. This was another strange game. Max Johnson was 10 of 20 for 140 yards and a touchdown.
You've been waiting a half an hour to say Max Johnson, aren't you?
Yeah, it was a limp performance. Sorry. No,
sorry.
I thank you for setting me up.
You're welcome. It's just the two of us tonight, so
Yeah, Texas A&M had 264 yards of offense. Miami's Tyler Van Dyke was 21 of 41 for 217 yards, so 80 yards more passing than them, and they had 392 yards of offense. But Miami muffed a punt deep in their own territory. You can't do that, and Miami could not get into the end zone. They outgained them. I can't say they outplayed them. That's two teams looking to find an offensive identity right there.
Yeah.
Texas A&M next has Arkansas and Arlington. So I think they're playing in the Cowboys Stadium there.
Yeah.
Which is so I think Texas A&M and Arkansas is going to be a good game. Arkansas, I think Arkansas is going to win. They got a better offense, and they're both pretty good on the defensive side. But I think Arkansas's offense is going to win the day there. Just not even 2 cents, just 1.5 cents. Well, actually, inflation 4 cents.
Yeah, inflationary. It's like 3.7 cents to 4 cents.
Did you have any thoughts on that game? Texas A&M their offense still looks bad. It's not the quarterback. It's the design of the offense.
Let me say this about Texas A&M. I'll be able to sleep at night after A&M is a W in our rearview mirror. Last year still stings for all the obvious reasons. Arkansas's got a lot of pluck. I can't hate on them. Not much. I mean, Missouri State kind of hung around a little bit longer than they should have, but I mean, Arkansas is a ranked team.
Arkansas is a very good team. I just think they got a little bit into the rat poison this week.
I think you're right.
They nearly got mauled by the Missouri State Bears.
Yeah. So I think you're right, and I feel like, I personally think Arkansas will shape up and at least make a go of it a little bit better in the West. But we'll see what condition they're in here in a couple of weeks. As far as to A&M versus Arkansas, I'm going to be honest. At this stage in the season, I'll give it to Arkansas. Now, next week, A&M could come out and just pound a team. They're that inconsistent.
I remember Nick Saban telling our guys back in 2008 after we beat Georgia. He came back and said the next week, during practice, he had to tell them, look, you are not nearly as good as you think you are, and you are not good enough to practice like you're practicing and expect to win the next week. And the next week, they beat Kentucky 14-12. I mean, that game, they were awful in that game.
Yeah, I remember it well. I pulled
that from memory. I did not look that up.
Good for you.
I'm proud of that.
One of my favorite Bear Bryant stories is along the same lines. He was watching the team practice, and there was some drill that they were running, and they weren't getting it to his satisfaction. And it was like late in the afternoon, and the guy who was telling the story actually played for Alabama in the mid '70s. He was practicing that day, and the sun was starting to go down. And he yelled at one of his assistants to go get a phone, to bring a phone out. And so he did, found a long enough cord and walked the phone out to the field. And he said, and he looked at his players, he called them over and he said, I'm going to call my wife and tell her to bring some food out here because we're staying after dark until you guys get it right. And like the next 2 or 3 runs in a row, they got it perfect, exactly like you wanted it. So never think that there's not room for improvement, boys and girls.
Yeah, well, our coaches used to tell us, you run these plays until you get it right, but you listen to the championship coaches. They don't practice the plays until you get it right. You practice the plays until you don't get it wrong, and until you can't get it wrong, because everybody knows exactly what they're doing.
Exactly.
Just getting it right once isn't enough.
Yeah.
My 2 cents. Anyway, so the weird thing about the Arkansas game was they did not take a lead until 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They had an 82-yard punt return to take the lead. They were playing like they thought they were good and ended up playing sloppy and had a lot of turnovers. So that kept Missouri State in the game way longer than they should have been.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if they can hang on with their fingernails. Who do we got next?
Florida versus South Florida. So Heisman candidate Anthony Richardson was 10 of 18 for 112 yards and 2 picks.
Oh, ouch.
USF quarterback Jerry Bohannon was 12 of 18 for 114 and 2 picks of his own. So this was the battle of the terrible quarterbacks.
It truly was.
12 of 28.
Two Florida men going at it, folks.
Yeah. The South Florida outgained the Gators 402 yards to 329. They had, now Jerry Bohannon, the quarterback, had 102 yards and a touchdown on the ground. But they also had a running back that had 70 carries for 150 yards and a touchdown. So Florida came out 31-28, but they kind of got outplayed. I just have to say that. They won the one game, and now they think they've arrived. And honestly, I haven't seen any improvement. And people are starting to realize that Anthony Richardson cannot beat you with his arm, at least not yet.
No.
So put a spy on him, shut him down, make him try to complete a pass.
I see nothing in Gainesville that makes me think that this is more than an 8-3 team.
This is a year one team.
Yeah.
And
get back to me in 2026.
And I have to admit, I overreacted when I put them in the top 10. They're barely a top 25 team at this point.
Agreed.
So I was it was a mistake on my part. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Now, Vanderbilt, Northern Illinois. The Northern Illinois big boy pant sizes scored on their first 4 possessions. The big boy pant sizes, those are the Huskies. By the way.
Okay, it took me a second there. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't get the reaction I wanted but I had to explain the joke. Anyway, they scored on their first 4 possessions to take a 28-14 lead early in the third. But their starting quarterback got hurt in the second quarter. And their backup did okay, but he couldn't keep up the pace. So after their first 4 possessions into the third quarter, second half after their first possession, they had 68 yards of offense and an interception. So Vanderbilt ended up shutting them down. Vanderbilt's freshman A.J. Swan went 18 for 28 for 255 yards and 4 touchdowns. So that's not a bad starting debut. And as I said before, Huskies quarterback Rocky Lombardi, which is the perfect football name. You can't have a better football name than that.
If it was 1958.
He was 7 for 7 with 79 yards and a touchdown before he got hurt on their third drive.
You really hate to see it. I do not watch games to see anybody get. I don't care who's playing.
Yeah. So the question is, if Rocky hadn't gotten knocked out of the game, would Vanderbilt have still won?
Probably not. Probably not. I just pulled the stats page up. Sorry for the headphones listeners there. Thank you once again, ESPN's website. But no, I mean, looking at the tail of the tape, no, absolutely not.
So yeah, Vanderbilt's improved. Their offense is going to give us some troubles, but I don't think we're really going to have trouble overall with them. No.
Be fun if we can block a field goal or two of theirs, because right?
Yeah, I know. I that's all right. Good. I'm glad he found a good place to go.
Truly.
So Missouri playing Abilene Christian. Abilene Christian punted on their opening drive, and Missouri's Luther Burden III returned it 78 yards for a touchdown. Quarterback Brady Cook was 22 of 31 for 297 yards and 3 touchdowns, but they had 85 yards in penalties. So they must have gotten the same refs that we had in Texas. But
Yeah,
Missouri
no
cruised
kidding.
for a 34-17 win over the Mild Cats. And coming up next, they're going to be on the Plains to take on Auburn. So can we have an elimination tournament? We have two teams. We have two schools that are in cities called Columbia, and we have three teams that are the Tigers. Can we not have an elimination tournament and get rid of some of these? Maybe we start
Maybe
this
we can have
weekend with Auburn, Missouri. The Tigers that lose, you're out. Something.
Maybe we can convince the NCAA or somebody to reform the Big South and just stick those guys in it. Just like on a late Sunday evening, they just all get an email the next day. Congratulations, the Big South Conference has been reformed. You're all in it together.
Something. I'm 3 Tigers out of 14 teams. I don't know. It's, at least the Sooners have a unique name. It's a silly name, but it's a unique name.
True. Somehow there manages to be 2 or 3 Aggies in college football. How did that happen?
Nobody says it. Agricultural schools, Aggies.
Yeah.
Why? That is, but if you're an Aggie, I would expect that your mascot's going to be like a cow or a horse or a carrot, not a milkman. Something.
John, they're prison trustees.
Okay.
Those white costumes. I'm sorry. Look, A&M fans, and I know there's exactly 0 of you listening. Your Yell leaders dress like prison trustees. They do.
And whatever they wear in those midnight Yell practices. Those
robes.
overalls.
They call them cult robes.
Oh. Yeah. They look like children of the corn out there.
They do. They really do.
Ole Miss. Okay, they took on Georgia Tech.
Miss.
And let me just say that if you could take common opponents and consistently compare to come up with a good comparison, Ole Miss beat Georgia Tech 42-0. They outplayed Georgia Tech in a way that Clemson did not approach. So Zach Evans had 18 carries for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Quinshon Judkins, almost an all-name team candidate here. He added 98 more yards with 2 more touchdowns on 19 carries, and they held Georgia Tech to 214 yards of total offense to sting the Yellow Jackets 42-0. Jackson Dart was 10 of 16 for 270 yards and a pick. He was mediocre at best. But they held this team to fewer yards than Clemson, gained more yards against them than Clemson, and scored more points than Clemson against this team.
The only reason I'm not having a panic attack about Ole Miss later this season is that they have to come to Tuscaloosa.
Yeah,
I don't think
all I'm doing is fun foreshadowing. Stay tuned. All right, Kentucky, Youngstown State. Okay, Kentucky beat Youngstown State 31-0. Will Levis was 22-35 for 377 yards and 2 touchdowns. Oh, and 2 picks. Yikes. The Wildcat D held the Penguins, which is an odd name for Ohio team, to 192 yards of total offense. And and Youngstown State was 0 for 10 on 3rd down. Also 0 for 2 on 4th down attempts. So they did not do well on 3rd down at all.
Bless their hearts.
There's really not much more to say about this. And Kentucky's got Northern Illinois next. Tennessee beat the Akron Zips 63-3. And for the life of me, I do not know what the hell a zip is. I know what a Zippo is.
I know what
a zip tie is. I know what a zipper is.
Isn't Ohio also the state that gave us the Browns? Like, what is a brown? I'm a brown. Like your last name is Brown, Encyclopedia Brown, the children's
I have
novels.
to
What?
say, and I know the answer to this. Cleveland Browns were named after Paul Brown, who was a longtime NFL coach, and I think he was the first franchise owner for Cleveland.
Well, you're not supposed to.
I'm sorry. I know that. I apologize for my knowledge.
Don't joke-splain at me.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I wasn't drinking.
Are you fansplaining?
That is one of the better ones.
All right.
So, Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker put it out there for 14 of 18 for 298 yards and 2 touchdowns. This wasn't much of a game, but there were a couple of interesting things about it. One, Tennessee went for it on 4th down 4 times. They were 4 for 4 on 4th down. But this is a team they beat 63-3. Why would you be going for it on 4th down against this team?
Yeah.
And they had 118 yards in penalties.
I mean, there's a at this point, why not? Wait, I'm sorry. How many yards in penalties?
100. It was, I think, 11 penalties for 118 yards. Tennessee's going to Tennessee.
Yep.
It's going to show up somewhere. And I think those two stats explain a lot.
118, because if you subtract that from their total yardage, which you have to, I mean, when you look at the final statistics, if you're just doing a stats run, you kind of have to. That's not good numbers, Tennessee. That's not good numbers.
They had 600. They had almost 700 yards of total offense.
Oh, well, okay. Maybe it's not that significant. Well, if we're going to get penalties, guys, let's do it today. We've got nearly 1,000 yards of offense in the game.
It's just, okay. A quarterback named Hooker had a great game against a team named the Zips. I don't know. Just seems like it was meant to be.
You should have come to the meetings and workshopped that with us. We could have done a lot with that.
I tend to script write alone. I don't know what can I say. That's around the SEC. Let's take a look at the remainder of the top 10, and we'll start with number 3, Ohio State. I must say the Toledo Rockets must be built by NASA because they looked underfueled in a 77-21 loss to Ohio State.
But okay, look. I am an imperfect person. I missed that game. Was that 21 points of garbage?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, all right. Then I have no further comments on that game. Then
Ohio State had 763 yards of total offense, including C.J. Stroud going 22 of 27 for 367 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Woof.
And 5 different Bucknuts rushed for touchdowns. FYI.
Oh, good to know.
A lot of touchdowns. Number 4. By the way, they have Wisconsin and Columbus this week, so we might find out that Wisconsin really is bad and as bad as they've looked so far this season, or we might find out that Ohio State doesn't score 77 on a real conference opponent. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm gonna say this real quick. I'm gonna interject this. I feel like, as far as consistency, Wisconsin is the Texas A&M of the Midwest, of the Northern Midwest. They could go in and they could mop the floor with Ohio State, or they could go in, lie supine, and say, "Yes, master, may I have another?"
The way they played so far this year, they seem like a "please, sir, may I have another" kind of team. I have to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. They may come in and just lay a smackdown on them. You just don't know.
I'd love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't either. But both of these teams, you never know. Wisconsin may just match up physically. If Ohio State, if you can match up with them physically, they don't look nearly as good as they usually do.
No.
That they usually, if you match up against them physically, they go down. was Oregon last year did it, and another one of the Big Ten teams did it, and Utah did it in the bowl game last year.
Yep.
And uh, yeah, Purdue did it a couple of 2 or 3 years ago. That was a wonderful thing to see. Coming up, number 4, Michigan mushed the Huskies of UConn 59-0.
I got that one. I got that one right off the bat.
Thank you. They held them to 5 of 20 for 24 yards passing and 86 yards rushing. 7 different players recorded a pass completion, not catching, throwing. 7 different players threw and completed a pass, including one named Orgy. There was an orgy sighting in the stadium.
So what you're saying is there was an orgy on the field, just throwing it around?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. That's exactly right. 1 for 1 for 5 yards, if you want to know the stat. And I can't wait. I thought when Michael Penix Jr. went off to Washington that that was it, because I had no other jokes. And now Alex Orgy is a freshman at Michigan, and thank you.
4 years at well, I mean, he could
redshirt. He's fourth string, so he could redshirt.
He could redshirt, and he could senior transfer. He could do grad transfer. We could potentially get a 6-year-long Orgy.
Yeah. Yeah. I have material. That's so good. All right, and number 5, Clemson smacked the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs over the nose with a rolled-up newspaper, 48-20. DJ Uiagalelei was 17 of 29. I hope I did that right. For 221 yards and a touchdown. Is that how you pronounce it, Uiagalelei?
I think so. It's kind of like Tagovailoa, except he's not good.
Yeah, that is a difference. One is a good quarterback, and one is a statue back there. He's a stiff.
Yes.
But Clemson's D held Louisiana Tech to 6 yards rushing and picked off quarterback Parker McNeil twice.
Oof, 6 yards. Damn.
Yeah, that's Clemson. Scary D, no O.
But yeah, I mean, because Clemson is going to Clemson.
Yeah.
There's
a joke in there. Big scary D, but you're not getting an O at all.
You're not getting an O. No. I caught it. But I mean, Clemson is going to Clemson at some point this season. You know it. I know it. Eddie Deason Jr. knows it. They're going to Clemson at some point. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? They have Wake Forest and Winston-Salem next. We're about to find out a little bit about it.
I would love to see them Clemson against Wake Forest, but they probably won't. Predictorator is only given a 21% chance for Wake Forest to pull out a W.
Yeah. There are a couple of teams in the ACC. NC State, I saw, they almost got beat by App State first week. And I thought, okay, these guys aren't going to be good. But, App State showed us that they're actually a team and can do some damage. So we'll see. There may be somebody. Clemson may have some competition this year. I'm glad to see it. Number 6, Oklahoma. Nebraska started off the Mickey Joseph era by driving 77 yards in 6 plays to take a 7-0 lead. And then they decided, that's good enough. And Oklahoma scored the next 49 points to make it 49-14 at the end. Oklahoma ran for 312 yards and 4 touchdowns and held the Husker offense at 250 yards after that first drive. That game was going to be iffy, because you never know how a team comes off of having their coach fired and playing under an interim coach. They're going to be emotional, but you never know. I think that's what happened. They started out emotional and scored the first touchdown, and the emotion wore off, and reality set in, and they just got hit.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, Oklahoma's got Kansas State and Norman coming up next. So Kansas State may, we'll see. I don't know. Those Kansas teams, you never can tell. I can't tell with Kansas. It's because the place is so flat. It kind of messes up my sense of distance. I can't tell if these teams are.
John, don't overthink it. Just carry on, my wayward son. I learned it from watching you. Okay.
Oh. Okay. Why is there a team called Kansas Totos? I just want to know.
I don't know, but this is what happens when grown-ups aren't on the show.
Yeah. Come back, guys. We need you. We're going off the rails. All right. Number 7, USC. They played another Bulldog. Yeah, I'm not playing that. USC beat Fresno State 45-17. Their quarterback, Caleb Williams, was 25-37 for 284 yards and 2 touchdowns and ran for 2 more. Malcolm Epps for USC had an interception, and that makes 7 for USC this season, each by a different defender. So their defense seems to be kind of one of those opportunistic teams that likes to get takeaways. Something to keep an eye on. They've got next up Oregon State and Corvallis.
Who?
And by the way, Oregon is how I spelled that, if you want to know on my spreadsheet.
Oregon.
Oregon. It's a weird concatenation of Oregon and Oregon. Oh, well.
Ed Orgeron, the richest man in Destin, Florida.
Okay. At the Hooters in Destin, anyway.
Yeah, no kidding. Exactly.
All right. So number 8, Kentucky, we already discussed them. Number 9 is Oklahoma State, and they tamed the Golden Lions of Arkansas Pine Bluff 63-7. Spencer Sanders was 13 of 16 for 242 yards and 4 TDs and played less than a half. There's an interesting note about this game. One drive by Arkansas Pine Bluff consisted of 4 runs by one Dominic Richardson, who promptly fumbled on the 4th carry. That was 4 straight runs. On the 4th one, he fumbled. Maybe give the guy a breather and maybe he'll hold on to it. It won't drop it from sheer exhaustion. I'm just saying.
Now, I'll say this. UAPB is my adopted team. So, sorry, Golden Lions.
Yeah. That was, and by the way, Oklahoma next week, they have a bye, which is, to me, a little early in the season for a bye, but there you have it.
Wow, yeah.
And so
I've seen a couple of teams have had byes so far, but I'm sorry, continue.
Oh, all I was going to say is that concludes the top 10. The next thing we have is that was it. So our next, yes, sir.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was about to say it, but you're going to say it.
All right. Next up is our buy or sell segment, and it's just you and I today. So we get to just discuss this.
Just absolutely.
So let me just say that the top of this is not really changing right now. So my number 1 is Georgia, and I have not seen a reason to move them from this spot.
Me either. I'm holding Georgia.
All right. That's fair. There's really nothing to talk about here. My number 2 is Alabama.
I'm holding, but I'm reserving an option to buy after our first conference play, which is coming up against a spirited Vanderbilt. So we're going to, in a week, we're going to be right back here, and Bill may have his checkbook out. We'll see.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, the Texas game, I think that was a little bit of an anomaly in retrospect. Yeah, we were emotional about it for a week. Now that I'm not in my feels about it, if we hadn't gotten all those penalties, I think we would have covered, and it wouldn't have been particularly close, and none of us would be nearly as stressed about it. Uh, the question is it going to happen again? So my number three, Michigan. Michigan owns the last victory over Ohio State, and that was a beatdown, and I don't see any reason to change anything yet.
No. I'll buy a little khaki. Not a huge amount. I'm not going to sink my whole account into it, but I'll buy some. Yeah.
So what is that? Acquire hold? Is that I can't remember the term. Back when I used to follow the Motley Fool all the time, what they would call that. Anyway.
No idea.
All right. My number 4 here is Ohio State.
You go first.
Well, I tell you, Ohio State has looked great against weak opponents, but then Notre Dame week 1, and we found out Notre Dame isn't that good, and it was still a very close game, and Notre Dame's defense kept Ohio State in check all day. So honestly, we don't really know. I think we know about number 1 so far, but the next 3 we don't know yet, because a lot of them, they haven't really faced a quality opponent. And with Michigan and Ohio State, I think that's where we are at this point.
I tell you what, I may eat my words on this, but I'm selling Ohio State. There's something there that's I got to sit down and look at numbers, and I got to look at some actual gameplay, but I'm not. I can't put my finger on it, John. Something about Ohio State. I feel bad saying that. Because honestly, I think they make it to the playoffs. But do they make it to the playoffs wounded? Tuckatod is pushing hard to sell, so I may have to buy him back next week, but I haven't seen Ohio State against a solid opponent. And I mean, I guess no, it's too early in the season to no, I can't. It's too early in the season to be foolish with my clout. So I'm leaving Ohio. I'm not moving Ohio State. I'm not moving on Ohio State. Just hold.
Hold. The conservative option.
I have to.
Okay. And
I mean, Wisconsin could come in, and their Wisconsin's defense, which hasn't looked great this season, but is still very strong up front, could come in and shut them down, and you know it as well as I do. So as far as Ohio State goes, wherever you put them, I'm not nudging them up or down. I can't. I gotta be super conservative. Everybody else is red hot and may fall or may rise to the occasion right now. But with Ohio State, I just don't know.
I think we're all sort of in that. And honestly, the reason that my top 4 hasn't moved is because so far this year is we don't know yet. And we haven't gotten into the meat of the schedule so that we can start figuring some of these things out. I think that these are the top 4 teams in the country. There's some other teams that are maybe looking good, like they may challenge some of these. But it's I mean, we've had 3 games. Vandy's had 4, but so what? We're not even care. We don't care about them. My number 5, and this is where it starts getting a little dicey. Right now, I've got Oklahoma. Where the
That's
wind
bold.
comes sweeping in. I can't put Clemson there. I can't. I don't think they're that good. I mean, they have a good defense. I don't think it's as scary good as they have been in the last few years, it's not that they're a bad defense. They're a very good defense. I don't think they're a great defense yet this year. And their offense is, I'm sorry, it's still putrid. It didn't really get any better from last year.
Mm.
They have to have a strong running game for their passing game to work, and they don't have it.
No,
So Oklahoma's been playing well. There are other teams that are playing well too, and we're going to learn more as this goes.
Yeah,
but
just sit Oklahoma right now. But yeah, just I'm holding Oklahoma. A lot of conservative calls on John's stocks here, guys, and I'm sorry. I know that makes for crap listening, but you know.
Well, that's okay. It's time to be bold. It's time to take a chance. And let me tell you why I'm saying that. Because my number 6, wait for it, is Ole Miss.
That is bold. And I tell you what, I am buying Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin is the photo negative of Dabo Swinney. Dabo is stuck in a 2016-2017 scheme. He recruits talent because, hey, I could be the next Breck girl. I mean Trevor Lawrence, right? If I go play for Dabo. Well, but his play scheme, the damn the torpedoes full sweep ahead, gets him beat 2 years running by not Purdue, damn it. It's right on the Syracuse. I mean, how meanwhile, Lane, God love him. I can't hate Joey Freshwater. I'm sorry, I can't. Lane, win or lose, at least show some daring out there. He's got guts, and you can't take that away from Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin's a good football coach. He's maybe not the best developer of men, but he's a good football coach.
He is a damn fine football coach. I mean, when he walks out there and his assistants have got like 2 binders apiece and he's got one under his arm, you're in for a rough Saturday afternoon because he will throw it at you. 2020 game, anyone? Now, granted, we curb stomped him in 2021, but he didn't back off.
No, but yeah, the popcorn wasn't as good as he thought it was going to be.
The popcorn choked him.
Yeah. So are we buying Ole Miss at number 6? Or
I'm buying, yes. I am buying Ole Miss at number 6. I all night long, hold, sell. No, I take that back, hold. I am buying Tonka says buying the sip, don't get caught up on the Lane train hype. Brother, we had this guy in the Bombardier Navigator seat. All right. He changed fundamental things about how Nick Saban coaches. And Nick didn't, like when Lane was gone, Nick didn't revert. Okay. The Lane train hype from game to game. Yeah. Okay. We can argue the merits of that. But the guy's strategy, he has a fundamental understanding of the game that you can't ignore. You will ignore it at your own peril. That he's got.
You know what else? They have a running game. They can run the ball.
They have a running game, and they're not afraid to use it.
And that's something that other teams in the top 10 they can't really say. And they're protecting their quarterback right now. Their quarterback is not great right now, and that may get them beat and drop them out. But if they can keep running the ball and protecting their quarterback, they'll stay.
Yep.
Because they could score some points. And their defense is playing pretty well. They can beat some people.
Like I said earlier, the only thing that's keeping me from having night terrors about Ole Miss this year is that they're playing in Bryant Denny. So what Ole Miss? Let's hear it. What are you buying or holding or selling Ole Miss at 6?
I'm the guy that put them there. I'm buying it. It's
See,
not a joke for me.
That's I really genuinely wish, all kidding aside, I wish we had Jess and Bo on right now, because I would really like to hear their. If you guys are out there listening, pop in, because I think Ole Miss is a hot property.
We'll see.
Tonka Todd is like waving. He's like waving the red flag. Their defense is horrible. Don't believe the hype. Sell.
Am I putting should I put in a column for Todd there in my little spreadsheet?
Maybe
next time. Maybe next time. All right. My next one, number 7, is Arkansas.
There you go, Todd. There's your chance. If we took super chats, this would be the time. You can buy us a coffee. It's down in the video description. Arkansas. Does Lane last? Of course he lasts the season at Ole Miss. Of course he does.
He's trying to ask if somebody's going to hire him away.
Ooh, gosh, because that could be. You think
he's not going to Nebraska?
You don't think so?
He's not going to Arizona. The only place he would be, they're thinking right now, is Auburn. And would you go into that situation?
Hell no.
You're not any better off on the other side of Tuscaloosa than you are on, west of Tuscaloosa.
That is toxic. That's worse than going to Tennessee.
Wow. Those are strong words. Yeah. But you may be right.
No, because it's that orange you can't sit with.
It's Auburn. Yeah, their boosters run everything, and if they decide they don't like you, then the rumor mill gets up, and they're gonna, anonymously accuse you of all sorts of things and get an investigation going and kill your recruiting, so that you can't get the players you want, so you're going to lose, and then they're going to get rid of you for losing. It is toxic. That's the only word. I've been in positions that are toxic like that, and you don't even entertain going there unless you can go in and clean house.
Yeah, and that's. I don't think the regents were very real. In fact, I know the regents and the AD were very keen to get Nick in. But I do think that there was probably more than one conversation where he walked in and, just said, look, I'm going to do this my way. I'm going to run the University of Alabama's football program the way that I want to run it, and you're going to step out of my way. Which, I think about there being some bizarro universe where Nick went to University of Texas to coach them, and Matthew McConaughey saunters into his office and then promptly gets physically thrown out, because that's not happening, And just as if I was a Texas fan, and I'm not, it would drive me bananas that Matthew McConaughey thinks he can speak for the team, thinks he can lean on the coach for influence. That just sticks in my throat. Anyway,
all right.
So, all right. So I'm buying Arkansas.
Okay. And so my number 8 is USC. They're playing pretty well. They're about to get into the meat of their schedule, so we're going to find out more about them. But I cannot put there are other teams that I can't put ahead of USC. For a year one situation, they're playing very well. That tells me that the offense they run is pretty simple, but it's a good offense.
Yeah, I mean, who's USC played and who are they gonna play? I mean, honestly, I don't buy into that preseason hype train about USC having a slot in the top 4. And nobody else should either. I'm sorry, USC. I'm sure you're all very nice young men and extremely talented at football. It's not 1975 anymore, guys. Okay. I see USC as a 9-3, but their 3 are enough to keep them all the way out on the West Coast, and they'll play their bowl game out there too. So I'm selling USC.
So okay, that might mean you might want my number 9 at number 8. That one is Clemson because of their defense.
When you get down this low, I kind of feel like, well, who do you have for Clemson? Yeah, I have feelings about Clemson. I have certain feelings about Clemson. What are your thoughts on Clemson?
My thoughts are they've got a good defense, and it may not be the defenses they had, say, in 2017, in the mid to late teens, but it's a very good defense. I think Clemson's offense needs to have a very good running game. They've got to have a top tier running back to open up their passing game. They don't have that this year, and their offensive line's not as good as it has been. So their offense, while it may improve, is not going to be good enough to get them up into the top 4. I don't know if it's enough for them to win the ACC. They're a good team, not a great team. Honestly, they're kind of a boring team to watch. But that's my thoughts. It's our offense has been like that a little bit this year, but you've seen flashes of ours having, we can score some points when we need to. Clemson, they get against a good defense. I don't know if they're going to be able to score the touchdown that they need in the fourth quarter to win the game.
So you selling or holding? I know you're not.
This is where I think they are. So I guess by definition, all of mine are hold because this is what I'm telling you. That
I'm holding Clemson. I'm holding Clemson. Are they? Go ahead.
I have them where I have them because I don't think there are teams below them that are any better. Otherwise I'd put them there. But they are not better than the 8 teams that are in front of them. This is where they are right now.
Yep.
Good. At times very good, not great.
Yeah. I haven't seen true flashes of brilliance, which is a coaching matter. It's just plain and simple. It's a coaching matter.
Their offense is not explosive, and they need that. So, they've lost a little something there, and it's not just this year. It's been the last 2 or 3 years that they've lost a little something there. The thing that made them great. Defense is still very good. Almost as good as anybody in the country, I think, right now. I may change my mind on that when they get into their conference schedule against teams that play them every year. But I don't know. Todd, I love watching wishbone games. I love to watch people execute the wishbone. I must say, to this day, I love to go back watch a well executed wishbone play. I played tackle on a triple option team in high school, so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, to round this out, my number 10, here we go in the Big 12, Oklahoma State.
I guess just keep them there for now because I have no feelings strongly either way about Oklahoma State. Sorry.
You're feeling this, buddy? You're supposed to analyze this.
Sorry, Mickley fans, but okay, so Oklahoma State, Who, you know what? Let's look at this real quick. My college football IQ isn't precisely what it should be, but let's look at what Oklahoma State has been doing. So OSU, who have they beaten? UAPB, Arizona State, Central Michigan. I mean, they're playing a ranked, and that's in massive sartalics, Baylor, Texas. I mean, who do they play this season at Oklahoma at the end of the season?
Well, they've got Texas, they've got Baylor, they've got Oklahoma. And then they have possibly one of the Kansas teams might be good. It's hard to say. But remember, Baylor and Oklahoma State played for the Big 12 championship last year. And that was a close game that came down to the wire. And it ended, I don't remember all the particulars, but it ended kind of strange. I don't remember what it was. I think somebody went for 2 and didn't get it or something.
I mean, an Oklahoma State game can be a wild game to watch, and you're absolutely right. TJP, Gundy is still a man. That's right. He is. Mike Gundy is still a man. So take it up with him.
You know what, Todd? I had Baylor in the top. I put Baylor in the top 10 in the first podcast. And then they promptly went out and crapped the bed, so they're gone. I can't trust them.
We've sold Baylor and do not recommend to our clients that they purchase any Baylor at this point.
I delisted Baylor. They look bad.
They're now a penny stock being traded on the Philippines Stock Exchange Index only. God, I don't know, John. OSU is a team. I mean, that will they beat Baylor? Who knows? Will they beat Texas Tech? Maybe.
Well, sitting right outside of the top 10, you've got Kentucky and you've got Tennessee. NC State's sitting right outside the top 10, and Utah, but I don't know. And Penn State, but who is Penn State beaten? I mean, they played Auburn, so Auburn gave them 4 turnovers, and
I never want to root for Penn State, but they did beat Auburn, so. Geez, I'm just, you know what? I'm just going to hold OSU. It's too early in the season. Get back to me in a couple of weeks on OSU.
They're getting into their conference, so that's basically these first few weeks are hard to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, once we start getting rolling in almost a coffin play in conference play. It's my second stumble tonight. Once we get rolling in conference play, I think we'll see a little bit. Things will gel a little bit more. But as for right now, I just feel like it's too soon to tell. It's too soon to tell with OSU. So
yeah, and thus completes buy or sell.
Oregon is only good for screwing with your TV's colors, temperature settings. Tonka, that's it.
Them and Boise State. God, I'm catching Boise State at home at night. What is wrong with my eye? Oh, it's Boise State. Never mind.
Oh, yeah. Just kind of do that thing where you cover up one eye and stare at the TV for a second. You cover up the other. Neither will come into focus. And then you realize you're watching Boise State play Oregon.
Oh. I think they stopped that after Boise State beat Oregon, and then that poor tight end got smacked in the head.
Yeah. So did you hear, and this is the tail end of things, college football has experienced its first bout of nuclear terrorism.
Yes. we tweeted about that, and
That's
I
right.
honestly,
We
my
did.
question is, when is she going to transfer to Tennessee? Because I see it coming.
So for those of you who may not be aware, Utah, was it Utah State, USU, or
I think it was Utah State.
yeah, it was a Utah State student said that she would overload the on-campus reactor and cause a nuclear explosion if Utah State lost. And apparently, neither campus security nor the Federal Bureau of Investigations thought that was nearly as funny as I do.
Yeah, that was you can't. Well, the thing is, she apparently works in the facility where the reactor is and has access to it. So, yeah, I think maybe they should have taken that a little bit seriously.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I would say, look, that's ridiculous, and that shouldn't be a thing. But I mean, we're a sport where you had a man who proudly went to jail for destroying multi-hundred-year-old oak trees with herbicide in the name of the Crimson Tide. So I can definitely see them in our zero tolerance society not thinking that was nearly as funny as she did. So yes, that is a first for college football. I can honestly say I was alive during the time when someone made a nuclear terroristic threat against the sport of college football.
So it was a University of Utah student, and it was because they were playing. Who was it? Who did they play? But yeah, she told they came to see her, and she told them it was a joke. But you cannot. That's don't do that, kids. If any of you are thinking about doing this and think it's funny, don't do this.
Yeah, no, it's. Todd says, "I bet you don't work there no more." I bet he does not.
Like I said, I'm expecting a transfer to the University of Tennessee any day now because it just means more.
Yeah, it was Utah State, Todd. So we got a game this Saturday. We are playing our first conference opponent. We are playing Vanderbildt in Tuscaloosa, which is a shame because I love going to Vanderbilt because their stadium holds 500 people. It looks like
usually 400 open seats.
And there's usually 400 open seats. Watching us play in Vandy Stadium is like watching an intramural soccer game in terms of facilities.
The other good thing about that is it's an hour and 15 minutes from my house.
Are you going to go?
Well, no, because isn't it in Tuscaloosa?
Well, yeah.
So yeah, Nashville's an hour and 15 minutes from my house.
Okay. I completely misunderstood you. Okay, all right.
My apologies, sir.
So, my thoughts for the game. This, I think, will actually be a better road test than Texas. Or not. I'm sorry. It will be a better play test than Texas on the road. We have a conference opponent. And I tell you what, Nick Saban gets hostile when people say you should beat this team by this much, or this is going to be an easy game. I feel like we're going to get tested in a few areas. All right. People have seen Bryce gets a little weird when you start to pressure that left side. And I sincerely hope Vanderbilt brings pressure on the left side. I want to see a well-playing, with an asterisk on that, but still well-playing conference opponent come to Tuscaloosa and do some SEC football. I don't think Vanderbilt's going to win. Let me just take a quick look here. what we're looking at as far as. Do you know the line on the game?
No, I was just wondering that. I would expect this is probably a 28 point line. Just be my guess.
It's a 40.5.
40.5.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
The spread is 40.5. The over under is 59. And of course, I got to pay ESPN for any further analysis than that. But the predictor rater is saying 1.4% for Vandy, 98% for Bama, obviously.
So that's a big spread for one of the top three teams, one of the top 2-3 teams in the conference versus the 12th. What I think is the 12th team in the conference.
My problem with this game is not that Bama won't make a good showing. We will. We're probably going to stomp them flat. It's that we're going to stomp them flat. Our next game after this, and Tuckataji, I can tell you're probably on the edge of your seat right now. We have to go to Arkansas. And I mean, looking at that one, we don't have a line on it yet. You know, I would like to be tested by a couple more SEC teams before we have to leave the house. That's just how I feel. But I mean, to the Vandy game, it's almost a fait accompli. We'll see, but you know,
this is one of those games. I don't know if you remember this or not, but Alabama in the 70s and 80s and 90s played Vandy just about every year. And and it was always like the third week of the season, or very early. And Vandy always came out and gave Alabama a game then. Now, then they get all beat up and lose to these other guys badly because they were just thin. But they always played Alabama tough.
When I was a kid, I had a T-shirt that had Al with his trunk jetting water into a little boat with the Vandy Commodores mascot standing in the boat as it was filling up with water, and it says "Sink the Commodores." So yes, I remember it well in the 70s of the constantly playing Vanderbilt.
For the first few years of when we split the conference, went to 12 teams and got split into divisions, they were one of our rival teams.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they were.
So it was Vanderbilt and Tennessee every year. I can't remember when that stopped. But we went to one permanent rival at some point, sometime in the 90s. And that means we lost playing Vanderbilt every year. I remember when I saw it, I was like, that sucks, man. Because it's nice to have that one built-in conference win.
So looking at the stats, points per game for Vandy, 42. For Alabama, it's 46. And these factoids are in a vacuum, okay? Because who is Vandy played, right? Points allowed, 28.5 for Vandy, 8.7 for Alabama. That is much more significant. Mm-hmm. Yards allowed, 414. Yards allowed by Bama, 225. So I think we're in for a bit of a mismatch game. Who knows? I hope it's I hope it's quite a drubbing we dish out, but we'll see. You got any strong feelings about it yourself?
I will tell you what I want to see, what I'm looking for. I want to see continued improvement on the offensive line, better communications. I want to see them start to gel. They've been shuffled around a little bit. We need them to settle down and start to gel and start communicating well. I want to see the receivers get a little confidence in what they're doing and start playing faster. We have fast receivers, but they're not playing fast right now because they're young and they're still thinking a little bit too much out there. It's time for them to, just go play and pick it up and go be fast, whatever they do.
Yes.
And that'll help Bryce Young look a lot better. And as long as the offensive line starts blocking better and can gel better, then our running game's gonna keep us going because we've got a really good running back, and I'm seeing flashes from a couple of those other guys. They get a crease, they're going somewhere.
Well, I'm in agreement with you. I need to see more cohesion. The individual parts are functioning great. Can we connect them up to each other now?
Yeah, well, get the right play calls in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
how do we do that? What is the
well,
element for the right offensive play calls, John? What do we do to get those?
you're leading me somewhere that I don't want to go.
No, come along with me.
So Bill O'Brien is holding stuff back, and every coach does it. Every offense does this every year. They start out simple, and they're bringing in new guys, and they're trying to start out simple and doing the things that they know their guys can do. And every week they're adding a wrinkle or two, adding a play or two. Um, it won't be this week. It'll be in the next 2 or 3 weeks that they will start. The playbook will be open, and that we will start seeing stuff that we were wondering why earlier in the year we weren't showing. But you don't show all your cards first game of the season when you're playing Podunk State. You do what you need to do to execute well and to get some stuff on film and hold stuff back for when you need it.
Fair enough.
And this is especially the offensive line and receiver core are young enough. I think he's been holding back a little more than usual. I hope this is what he's doing. If we come in week 9 and we're still running the same plays and we're not adding wrinkles, then yeah, we got a problem.
Yeah,
but I think that's what he's doing.
Well, they're adding wrinkles right now. It's just they're to my brow.
Okay, he's adding bruises to my knuckles from punching walls.
I understand. I understand. We'll see where we're at next week as to whether or not we need to throw ashes on our head and rend our garments. But right now, I think we win. I think we win handily. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna call it 48-14. That's a little narrower, but I think
I'm going to say 42-10.
Okay, so we're kind of in the same neighborhood.
I don't worry about covering. I do not put money on games. Gambling is for people who are bad at math. So I don't care about the spread, but I don't think they cover. I think we get a far big enough lead that late third quarter we're going to start seeing the backups come in, and we're not scoring anymore after that. And they may be when they score. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't want to see any. I don't want to see any more bad word sloppy play out of Jalen Milroe. I'm sick of it. Tighten up, young man. It is your aircraft in 10 months. But not if you keep playing like that. Because honestly, the guy after Milroe, he looks pretty sharp too.
Yeah, well, Milroe's a bit of a project. I mean, he's a great athlete. He's
Sure. And I have said this before, and I hope you agree with me, but if you don't, that's fine. I see a lot of Doug Williams in Jalen Milroe. Just insane strength. The guy can stand flat-footed and throw a football 80 yards.
Yeah, college, playing a quarterback in college football, it's difficult. It's the hardest position to play, and it's mental. and it's mental in a way that you can't. I can think through some things. What I can't do is stand there with four guys trying to kill me and think fast and just react in less than a second.
Yeah,
Not everybody's got that, and it's hard. It is extremely hard.
No, of course, I don't disagree with you, because you're right. You're playing, you're playing three different games out there: track and field. You're the guy that another bunch of people is playing kill the man with the ball against, and you're playing catch. You're playing keep away catch.
Yeah, it's tough, but not everybody gets there with the same set of skills.
Right.
I think he will get there. If he doesn't get there, then the other guy behind him's going to do pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Bama pretty much reinvented the concept of next man up for college football, so I'm not super concerned. But if Milroe rolls out in the middle of the third quarter, I need to see a complete game out of him. He needs to make me a believer, a 100% believer, not a, dang, that boy can throw a ball really far. It's going to be that man at that point, they're
how many guys have we seen in college football that could throw the ball a country mile and got drafted in the NFL and never played it down because that's all they had?
Jacob Coker. I love
Kitchens.
Freddie Kitchens.
Who was that kid from LSU? He could throw the ball forever, and I
know who you're talking about.
They fell in love with him, and he was terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could say something about old Johnny Football, but that was more of an implosion than it was a matter of We're not doing 30 for 30. We're not launching into a Jamarcus Russell.
There you go, Jamarcus.
There you go, Jamarcus Russell.
Purple drink. Yep.
Purple drink. We're not going to do a 30 for 30 on that. But anyway, so
behind the football,
need to see consistency. I want to see this is game 4. All right. This is not the NFL. Game 4 in the NFL, you basically haven't started your season. There are teams that start 0-4 and win Super Bowls. Not many, but it happens. This is college ball. Our season is almost half over at this point. So Tide, and I know you're all listening, get consistent, because this may be your last opportunity to do some screwing around and faffing about. And that's all I have to say.
Winning is fun. Screwing around is not always fun. Just don't go look at my past.
If your browser history could talk.
Ooh, no.
Let's not go there. All right. Okay, folks. So I think that's going to do it for us this season. Although I do want to give it the shout out again. TJP, quick on the draw. TJP hit with our trivia question tonight at halftime, which was who got the biggest shellacking so far in conference wise versus Nick Saban, and that of course was 2017 Ole Miss, whom we beat by 63 points. And you were at that game too, TJP. I envy you. So we'll be back next week, and we'll be looking at the wreckage of the Alabama Vanderbilt game. Whether it's theirs or ours remains to be seen. And we'll have more trivia question for you. Hopefully we'll have the whole fam back in then, because it'll be after our first conference game. But also I should point out, coming up in October, we have 2 guests who will be on our shows in October. One is a surprise, because we're still working it. We're still trying to settle everything down. But I can tell you now that Bama Rewind, that's right. If you're a fan of Alabama college football, right here on YouTube is a superb channel called Bama Rewind. And folks, he has got game clips that go all the way back to the 1940s. You want to see the 1946 Rose Bowl? Guess what? He's got it. He usually does a fantastic job. Well, he always does a fantastic job, but he condenses the games down. You can watch an entire season in a couple of afternoons. It's amazing. And he's going to join us. We're going to have him on the show. And then, like I said, a mystery guest also. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So until next week, any parting thoughts, John?
Roll Tide, beat the doors.
Roll Tide, beat the doors off of Vandy. We'll see you guys next week. Peace. Whoops.